Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Startupr Founders Series. As always, I'm your host, Parker Costin, the CMO and co-founder of Startupr. Uh, Within this podcast, the focus of it is for us to hear stories from successful founders, find out those little nuggets of information that are ever so helpful that you won't find anywhere else. I'm here with Joe Johnson, the CEO and founder of LedgerUp, and thank you so much for being here.
Great to be here, Parker. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, exciting stuff. You guys have really built something that seems to be very, very impressive. Uh, you have raised from some of the biggest players in the game, and we will get into those questions. But first, for people that don't know, let's start with just what is the product and how did you get there?
Yeah, so the product is basically we help companies selling into enterprises convert their contracts to cash. What that means is after a contract is signed, there are probably 4 or 5 different softwares that need to be used in order to send out that invoice, collect on the invoice, handle weird amendments, step ups, usage, etc. What we want to do is for founders, for chief of staffs, for folks who are in the operations roles, just sign the contract and we'll take care of everything else. How we found it is actually very interesting. We initially started off with a more broad approach to this. We went with AI bookkeeping. My background's controller and director of finance, so I'm very familiar with the accounting and finance space. And then this was just happened to be a niche within that segment that we discovered. And it was very interesting to see, okay, trying to serve a ton of people, which is like what everyone tells you not to do, and then
Mhm.
focusing on the specific niche. But yeah, no, it's AI agents in the vertical of the office of the CFO. So it's a very exciting space.
Okay, very, very cool. And it sounds like you have, I don't know if you pivoted along the way. Has that always been the business problem that you've been trying to solve, or kind of how did that change over time?
Yeah, shockingly, so my co-founder and I looked at our bank accounts, realized we had 2.5 years of runway living in San Francisco, quit our jobs, and did this full time January 1st in 2024. I saw this problem first rise up in late January 2024. And I knew it's a problem that we wanted to solve. And it was always we'll do that. But like the next thing was always getting more customers. And so it just like got kicked down the road. And so that's when we first experienced this problem of someone missing out on one of their contracts. They were about to miss out on 20K because they're about to bill it incorrectly. And that's when we realized, oh, okay, like this is actually very like strenuous process. We went broad approach, did all the AI bookkeeping for companies. This is a more of like a focal point within that larger like broad spectrum of things that you can do for a company.
Mhm.
It just came from like having enough data and enough conviction to bet the farm on this. And so earlier this year, we said, okay, we've seen this consistently across most of our customers. We're going to have to transition all of our customers on our bookkeeping product off to another bookkeeper, which is
Mhm.
good because, it wasn't like a specific software. Everyone was just transitioning to a service, but then bet big on this. And so we let go of all our customers, went back down to zero, and we've rebuilt it in a quarter, just with hard work and like serious focus.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that's cool. Great
Yeah.
first question, I guess. All right, perfect. And so I guess I don't know if this would make sense for the first time, but more likely the second time. Like, what is and how did you get your first 10, 100, and 1,000 customers? Were they like close business connections, and how did you build from there?
Yeah. So I think now with this new focal point, it's a little bit different than the initial idea.
Mhm.
So I'll start with the initial idea and then how that's changed and evolved over time as I've learned. The first one was my brother-in-law and his business partner. And that one was nice because I was like, oh hey, I have this idea, and they were like, if you can solve this, that'd be great. I'm like, okay, perfect. That's where I got that
Perfect.
customer. And then
Yeah.
we did well for them, so we were able to get like 1 or 2 more referrals from them. Of course, they wanted to help us out. They're mainly friends and family for the first few on the AI bookkeeping side.
Mhm.
Then we started doing a little bit more outbound. People started like actually finding us online. I think bookkeeping in general is one that's really hard to do outbound for because, if
Yeah.
you go to your spam inbox right now, you'll find 2 things. Someone trying to sell you website design services and another trying to sell you bookkeeping. And maybe another's trying to sell you a lead list. Like those are the
Mhm.
3 spammy emails that you get. So outbound is actually really hard. The new idea is actually much more nuanced and a very, very like small focus. And so a lot of that has come from being in Y Combinator, using that brand to, get intros into founders, but then also our reputation has been,
Hmm.
growing. And so it's people finding us online for this very specific pain point, finding us through Y Combinator and articulating, oh, hey, that's the problem I have. My contracts don't equal my revenue. What's going on there? Please help me, kind of thing.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's very interesting. And definitely I feel like yeah, taking out the human element of that was kind of a natural step. So that makes a lot of sense.
Hmm. Exactly. Yeah. It's actually a very interesting sales process because I think the future looks like, for selling AI agents, you're really selling like a person within a role within a company, and
Hmm.
you're no longer selling like a massive interface. Um, our entire interface, we do have a small interface that shows like high level numbers, but most of the interactions with customers is via Slack, which is
Mm.
crazy. So like most
Yeah,
of our,
that is
it's a very
crazy.
bespoke process. And that's where I think AI agents have a serious upper hand on Web 2. But it's strange from a demo perspective because
Yeah.
there's no existing material that teaches you how to do this new sales process other than the fundamentals, which is listen to the pain point, articulate it, and basically just listen. Like that's what you can
Yeah.
do, and then show the results of using RE, the world's best AI agent in this space.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So essentially like taking them through like how we have worked with other customers in your so almost live demos might be the only way that you could like kind of or
Live
listen
demos
and
are
then build it
fantastic.
right there. Yeah.
Yeah, and usually what we do is like a discovery call, and I'll like
Hmm.
understand exactly what their workflow is, disqualify them if we're not the right fit. But
Hmm.
if they are the right fit, I'll have a demo call with almost a contract that I imagine looks exactly like theirs, because almost everyone's dealing with the same similar
Yeah.
problem. And they're like, it's like a click. They're like, oh, like that is my exact invoice, and I just saw it get created automatically. I don't have to do that anymore. Like, this
Hmm.
is fantastic. And I think different folks have different pain points along the process that I described. There's like multiple softwares in that. Some people want their Salesforce up to date. Some people want to never
Hmm.
have to touch Stripe again, but to have it there. Others want, QuickBooks Online to have all their accounting data up to date all the time. Like, there's just like multiple issues people might have. So it's just focusing on that one specific point within the process that we're trying to do.
Okay, cool. Nice. And you touched on a thing that I've heard over and over, especially from people that went to Y or that worked within Y Combinator, which is just getting feedback from customers, early and often. So like how did that adjust or help you along the way?
Yeah, I'll actually take a different angle than I think I would have in while we were in Y Combinator. Of course, you're
Hmm.
in Y Combinator, you're like sleep deprived. It's like
Of course.
90 to 100-hour weeks. A lot of it's just a blur, but I think customers are always trying to put you in a box of how they currently understand the world. And the pain points that they're trying to articulate in the direction that they give you, while helpful, should be taken and distilled down to like what is their pain point and less on what are they asking for.
Mm.
So, for example, when we were selling AI bookkeeping, which is what we were doing while we're in Y Combinator, the feedback we got from customers was my pain point is I want to be able to see all like my product in the dashboard. It's like, so what we ended up doing was like doing the AI bookkeeping, but then spending a ton of time building out a dashboard for people to see their revenue numbers. Um, and that was a mistake because what ended up happening was we looked like every other accounting software out there. It's like we did
Right.
nothing different. And if you're using AI to do a lot of the work, which we're starting to do, like everyone does that. Most everyone's code is generated by AI. Most of their designs are generated by AI. AI will just create what's already been created, and so you're just going to end up
Just
replicating
fading
it.
to the background.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you just become
Hmm.
noise. And it's like you be the signal, not the noise kind of thing. Listen to their feedback and but like handle like it in a nuanced way that addresses their pain point without like just doing what everyone else has already done. Otherwise you're not going to stand out. So that was like it was cool to
Yeah.
see that feedback, to do the mom test, which I highly recommend reading, but then also to be like, okay, what's like their actual issue here and how can I help them solve this without doing what everyone else has already done.
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting like piece of advice because I feel like most people will just kind of like point and shoot, and take that information and go after it. But
Yeah.
it nuanced like within the AI space, you kind of have to almost tell them what they want because they don't know what you're capable of.
Yeah. It's almost like the Steve Jobs approach. It's
Hmm.
like which I think it's hard to be when you're a new time founder. It's not even arrogance. It's more just like really truly understanding what the customer wants.
Yeah.
Um, and even like wording it back to them in a way that makes sense. You know, it's not like, oh, hey, it's a like Dell tried their hand at doing MP3 players right when the iPod came out, but it wasn't like, you know, hey, this is an MP3 player. It was, you know, 1,000 songs in your pocket. And I think like articulating it back to the customer, um, and why it's the better solution is part of the education process. And that's really
Hmm.
taken a big impact on us is less about sales and more about education and making people aware of this pain point and letting them know that, hey, there's a solution for this. Like what you're experiencing has a name. Here's how you label it, and here's what we're doing to fix it.
Right, right. No workarounds anymore for something that's a nuanced problem within something else.
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
genuinely think AI agents should be solving problems that only humans can solve, and specifically
Hmm.
problems that humans should not be solving, such as repetitive workflows, data
Yeah.
entry, items like that. It's not very strategic work, and it's just like, you know, it's
Yeah.
boring. It's like what people imagine when they're sitting in a cubicle in an office, like that horrible like prison type mentality.
Hmm.
It's like that's the jobs that AI agents should be like going after. And I think like articulating the only way to do a lot of these processes is with humans, and building an orchestration agent to handle that has been like a huge lift off our back in terms of like how we position the company and the product and the solution.
Yeah. Like the idea that someone could be so problem sensitive or so attention to detail that they could do that a billion times and not make a mistake is ridiculous. That's like the easiest place I agree where you can step in
Yeah.
with AI agents.
Even if they could,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You
why?
wouldn't want
Like,
to. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's
exactly.
like you're paying, you know, you have a certain amount of money allocated for headcount. That person hates their
Yeah,
life. They'd rather be doing something else. Like, if they're a great employee, keep them, but then put them on something that's higher leverage. So it's like,
yeah.
yeah, but also we find lots of mistakes. So
Yeah,
it's like you're getting the worst of
both.
both worlds, basically.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, okay, cool. And okay, so to switch gears a tiny bit, pricing within startups is extremely difficult to, especially when you're coming to market. Like,
Mhm.
how did you figure out your pricing model? How did it adapt over time? Just tell me about kind of like your pricing strategy and journey.
Yeah. Okay, so this one was interesting. The other reason why AI bookkeeping didn't work for us because we put ourselves in a commodity space where the only thing like we couldn't charge if we were 10x better, which we couldn't charge 10x more because it's a commodity. So you're just being
Hmm.
compared against what someone else would charge. So our pricing there was really dictated by the market. Um, when we realized the space we're in now was a focal point of the AI bookkeeping, but the issue is like for us, it's like how much is it costing the customer, both in time, but then also in like money. And we were able to find this is wild, but like genuinely, with most companies I talk to, it's 10% of ARR is missing. So
That
if
is
you're at a
huge.
million ARR, you're talking about 100K just
Yeah.
gone. And so I think all sales decisions are emotional decisions driven by logic. And so looking at that and saying, hey, this sucks. I get it. We'll handle that for you. Oh, and by the way, the logical part of it is we're going to find you 100K in missing revenue most likely.
Hmm.
Um, and then that's like people are so easy to like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then the pricing around that is just charge a fraction of whatever that would be. But
Yeah.
like I leave the conversation saying, okay, it's going to cost you $80,000 or more to hire someone to handle this process. That is still an ROI. Like you're still going to be up 20K if you hire
Yeah.
someone for this. So like if you don't bring us on, do something about it. But if you're going to do something about it, why not hire the very best? And why not hire Ari from LedgerUp? Is kind of
Hmm.
the pitch. And then the pricing is just like, you know, how big's the pain point and can we automate it for them? And I think being bold on the price, I think it's like, so you're going to turn some people down. That's fine. Like you can like, if someone's not feeling the pain point large enough, I've found the customers who pay, at least with AI bookkeeping, sometimes the customers who paid the least complain the most. And
Yeah.
make a price point worth like someone complains, you're fine with it. It's like perfect, you know, high touch point customer, but high price point. It's totally it's an easier pill to swallow and really do a good job for them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes sense. I mean, especially that following the 80/20 rule, right? Like 80% of your revenue is going to come from 20%, and 80% of your problems are going to come from 20%. Most likely they're
Yeah.
on the opposite sides too.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's been helpful. We did when we were doing the pricing strategy, a lot of it was figuring out like what is a human cost to do this job? How do we break that out? And actually pricing is something I have a lot of, like probably more than most people.
Yeah.
I would say probably like 99th percentile on like pricing strategy, most likely, because we work with companies who do contracts.
Hmm.
And I do think the future of pricing, especially for AI companies, is you want to have some idea of what MRR and ARR is. So you want to have a flat fee, but then some type of like usage on top of it is always ideal, because then it
Right.
incentivizes the customer to use the product up until like, where they would cross that threshold. And then they get to make the decision on, do I want to push past this threshold? And then you can analyze, okay, customers paying us $5,000 a month, and then it's variable, anything above $5,000 a month, for X number of credits or whatever. You can start to understand, like, are they using up to that threshold? Are they going beyond that threshold? Like, what makes a good customer is, and then you can like kind of break down like the pricing, and like solidifying a customer with that not only articulates their pain points, but also how much they're using it.
Hmm.
And that's what we've
Hmm.
seen from the most successful companies, is like just trying to get a enterprise to move quickly, agree to a price, and then validate that with usage and understanding how much they're actually putting into the product. Because companies now are, you know, like there's lots of talk about like churn and stuff like that. It's really
Hmm.
understanding the health of your revenue in addition to the growth.
Right, 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 right. No, and that's a very interesting one. And I feel like AI always has those credits that are kind of associated with it. So trying to find like what that flat fee is, what pushes people to use it more. Obviously, you're having a lot of conversations here about making sure it's the right customer, which is
Mhm.
even better, and pricing yourself high enough to make sure that it works and not be mad at any of the
Yeah,
feedback that comes with
exactly.
it.
Like I
Yeah.
couldn't charge like someone who's like, at 100K in ARR, like my product's not going to be worth it for them because
Yeah.
the payoff hasn't happened yet. You typically cross that threshold around 250, 500, but even then sometimes like it might break even, but it wouldn't,
Hmm.
it wouldn't be a massive ROI. And so it's really like at what point does it make sense to like, okay, yes, please handle this for me. Like, yeah. So,
Hmm.
the selling point for us is pretty easy. It's if I can find you $100 and I get to keep a percentage of that,
Yeah.
that's like people are most usually pretty fine with that.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you? I mean, the $1 million example kind of got me. So that makes sense for me. All right, let's move
Exactly.
on a little bit. Specific KPIs are also so important when you're growing. What essentially, and they could have changed over time, but what KPIs do you focus on to make sure that your company is growing in the right way?
Yeah, I mean, revenue is going to be always the big one. That's why we're
Hmm.
focused on this area, is because no one actually
Yeah.
knows what the ARR, MRR is, or they
Yeah.
have an idea and they don't actually know. So revenue will always be our biggest one. The other thing
Hmm.
is like our total contract value, like how does that grow and evolve and change? So like we
Hmm.
would like to ideally be solving the biggest pain points for the biggest people, and so that helps drive that. But yeah, week over week revenue targets are huge. We're also looking at like how often does someone interact with Ari in Slack, and is that
Mm.
increasing, decreasing? What type of responses are they having? Um, how many team members are they adding on? Like, yeah, just
Right.
really trying to understand who loves us and why, and is the reason they love us because we're doing a good job of educating them, or like it really just like a
Right.
simple KPI can dive into so many different facets of the company in terms of like hour-long discussions on the weekend about like what
Yeah.
we can do next to make our customers happier. Is yeah, a big part of the KPIs we're looking at.
Yeah, yeah. So almost how integrated as well. Like because that has a lot to do with the education aspect of how much you've been able to teach them so then they can utilize it effectively.
Yeah, and I think that part's like really, really tricky because you don't want to like give them too much information on the first call.
Yeah.
But you do want to make sure you want to land the deal as quickly as possible and get them on the solution as quickly as possible, and start automating this work for them as quickly as possible. But then it means you only can cover like 10% of the total things that Ari can do. And so then it's
Hmm.
like, how do you almost like drip feed the rest of, I don't, that's not a term, but oh well,
Yeah, yeah. Well,
this way
essentially
to
you're
drip off
email dripping
content.
it almost. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's an education drip basically.
Hmm.
And like, hey, by the way, we didn't talk about this in the call, but Ari can do this and Ari can do
Hmm.
that. It's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And I think another opportunity there is like potentially like upselling the customer as well on like
Yeah.
new things that Ari can do. And
Hmm.
for lots of our customers, like seeing how they interact and like being able to like live in their different softwares. We're able to see how much they're using those softwares and like where they're doing a lot of manual work. And it's like, okay, maybe that's the area that we start working towards next.
Hmm.
There's just like so much data entry that we can automate that people are
Yeah.
just sucked into right now.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, once again, switching gears a little bit, I want to talk about fundraising because I think that that's super important for everyone that is listening. Uh, all of the companies, Y Combinator, that you have been within, that you've raised from, super impressive stuff. Can you walk us through kind of just your journey through fundraising and, like what stages and potentially how much you got from each one?
Yeah, absolutely. So we ended up, so when we first started the company, we were like, okay, we're worth $10 million. First time founders and why, not no YC, just starting off with an idea and a dream, saying they're worth $10 million. Who would invest in that? And the answer is no one. We had no traction. We had nothing. So I don't know if it was, if we thought about this or someone else told us, but they're like, okay, you and my co-founder Bailey, we've both been working for a few years. We're in like our mid to late 20s. So it's like, okay, what do we have cash in the bank? Okay, we have enough money for 2.5 years of runway. Why do we need to raise? Like, if the future is it's cheaper to start a company and get traction with AI than ever before, and it can, multiply your team, then if we can't make money in 2.5 years to break even with our living expenses, we don't deserve to be entrepreneurs, honestly. So we were like, okay, we're just gonna bootstrap this. And then by bootstrapping, really just learning the ins and outs of the business, we ended up having the Y Combinator. We continued applying to like Neo, Y Combinator, all these other like
Hmm.
events, or sorry, accelerators.
Incubators.
And we finally got our third interview for Y Combinator. This was the first time with this new idea. Did an in-person interview, which was awesome. Got in, and the crazy part was like we didn't actually study for that Y Combinator interview. Like I think like every time we did an interview before that, we had always studied up and like, oh, we got to memorize everything. It's like if you actually just do the work, you don't have to memorize anything because it's just like I can close my eyes and know every single number because it's burned into my retinas when I fall asleep. It's like it's just you are the company, so it's like they're just asking you
Yeah.
something you already know, like in your heart. And so getting into Y Combinator was like at that point it was like, okay, we're no longer a bootstrap company, we're a venture-backed company. They give you 500K.
Hmm.
And then it's it behooves you to raise a ton of money afterwards too, because you can get favorable terms. And so we ended up
Yeah.
raising standard 2 on 20. And then kind of just like, yeah, just growing from there. We brought on an extra teammate, but I think a lot of companies now, like while fundraising is important, the money will come to you if you just build a really great product. Like people want to invest in areas that they think has a high ROI. Go and demonstrate that ROI, do the work yourself, and also be fine with walking away from the table if they're not interested in investing. Like that's what we did. And it worked out great because it's like you actually validate the pain point, the price people want to pay for it, and you get more cards in your hand to play if you want to. I think entrepreneurs nowadays have so much like there's so much fortune. We're so entitled in this generation, and like yes, things are moving a lot faster, but you can do so much with so much less, and it's like it's a very exciting future. I think for founders to kind of have that control. And then when you're ready to scale, go raise money, scale like crazy,
Hmm.
know your customer ins and out. Like that's the big thing.
Okay, nice. Well, that's really cool. Well, then well, I guess you answered a lot of the other questions as well. But what was kind of like one of the hardest questions that you got from from an interview within fundraising?
Oh man. I think for me, it's like in the early days, you really don't know a ton about go-to-market and you're still trying to figure out like where your product exists. And always the hardest question I got was like, so how are you doing go-to-market? You'll always get like random questions like, oh, like what's your moat? Or why wouldn't, Intuit do this? Or why wouldn't
Hmm.
like there's no moat but speed, genuinely. Even when you become a massive company, that doesn't save you anymore. Like, yeah, you have distribution, but like if someone builds a better AI tool with like, a quarter of the team, eventually they will eat you. You're a big company. You're about to get like just destroyed.
Hmm.
So like the moat question I've always found kind of like silly. At least in like it's like seed investing. Um the hardest one was the go to market, and truly
Mm-hmm.
knowing that and experimenting with that is something that I think I failed to do during YC. It was mainly just about like getting traction, and I didn't spend enough time learning about that. Um, Now that being said, like we had enough traction, we had enough like learnings to take away that it was, we were able to do our raise in like, 3 weeks or whatever. But like yeah, that was probably one of the harder questions I got. And that's one thing that even now it's like, what is your go-to-market strategy? What has worked for you? Like really testing that out and having hypotheses as well as like outcomes is something we're still working on, and something that um I implore people to go off into. Like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
validate the pain point, yeah, sure, but then also like how are you getting to that person? How are you talking to them? That's something that AI can't automate for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I guess okay, then what is the biggest like go to market thing that you might have learned within there?
Yeah, people, I think being in San Francisco is one of the biggest advantages you can possibly have, or just a place where your customers are,
Mm,
and meeting with them in person generates so much trust. And just talking to people, like talking to them in person is huge. So I think that's like honestly from a go-to-market perspective, it's like business development has become so much more important because two things matter. In an age where AI can do so much outbound, and it's like, it's like too much noise, and it just destroys that channel.
mm-hmm.
The only thing you can't automate are in-person meetings and um I guess probably cold calls, but that's like, you have to really be like hard-headed on that one. And referrals and in-person meetings, actually developing relationships, being educational in nature, and
Mm-hmm.
picking a specific niche has been the best for us. It's like,
Okay.
hey, we do this process for this customer. Our go-to-market strategy, honestly, is more based around positioning and education than anything else, and building relationships. And if someone doesn't want to use our product, that's fine. We can still at least be like, friends and like friendly, and like
Yeah.
it's just fun to network and talk to people. So yeah.
Okay. No, that's all great advice, especially from like this kind of B2B space, like making sure that like the reputation, I'm sure a big thing over time will be when people move companies, and then people in those roles will then be like, all right, well, you have to check out LedgerUp because we were using it at the last place, saved me so much time.
Literally, yeah. Or it's like,
Hmm.
hey, I'm not a good fit for this, but I really like talking with you. Here's a guy I know who is dealing with this pain point. He mentioned it last week at lunch, and it's like
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Like just by not force feeding a sale and more just like education, it actually opens up the ability to have. It's honestly, it's very similar to investors, and why Combinator
Hmm.
taught you this in the like while you're going out and raising is like most of the time the big investors might actually come from a small investment from an angel investor. And it's
Hmm.
like one person has so many different nodes that by building and watering that one person and that one relationship, it could like flower into lots of other nodes. But then at the end of the day, even if it doesn't, like you at least like had a fun interaction and they enjoyed the conversation. So it's like not putting any pressure on it, and just like keeping it open ended and just being a good person. I think that really
Yeah.
pays off, which is like crazy to say because like duh, but like it's crazy how fast that pays off by just being a genuine happy person to be around.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's crazy to say, but it also holds a lot of weight. Like the fact that you have to say it is an important thing, like,
Yeah,
out there. Hmm.
absolutely.
Okay, then what this might be the same answer, but when you're talking to investors, typically they're investing just as much in the CEO or the co-founders. Like, what traits or qualities about you do you think that they found so impactful, and why they put the money in back to you?
Yeah, I think I'm very high energy. I'm like keeping my voice down because this room echoes a lot, but usually people can hear me around the entire office when I talk, even like a call room. I'm a very high energy person. I'm very passionate about what we're doing, and I think that plays into the sale as well as people just realizing like that energy kind of just generates more energy. And so I think being
Hmm.
super passionate is huge. I think having a co-founder is amazing. I've had a fantastic co-founder that we both grew up in a small town of 6,000 people in North Carolina, where no one else has really, like, I think we're the only ones in the West Coast. Everyone's still kind of like back home or dispersed around the South. And so it's like,
Hmm.
we've got a very unique story and a very strong friendship that supersedes anything else. And we've also got deep expertise. So my expertise are in the finance and accounting space. His are in the, technical space, specifically AI agents. And so it's like, do you have a strong co-founder relationship? Do you have traction? Do you have industry expertise? And if this idea fails, do you have the energy and the will to make something else work? Or duct
Mhm.
tape enough to the point where you can actually, like, hire people to like fill in the gaps that you might not be doing well. I think that's where the energy, the chemistry, and the direction and knowledge has been just. We just got very lucky in this space, I would say. But once again, it goes back to more than anything, the biggest thing is like being able to walk away from the deal. Like having that
Mhm.
confidence is like something that you can't put a number on. It's just people feel the energy around you if you have that about you when you have a conversation.
Yeah, yeah, art of the deal. That's great. It
Exactly.
seems like that's been your theme. Obviously, being a good person, knowing, doing the work, all those things. Don't want to boil you down to one thing, but being able to walk away from, just like this isn't the right product for you, and just having that ability, or yeah, I know my worth, and I don't want to take this bad terms, like that. Just having that energy is super important. It seems like.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a lot
Hmm.
of you just got to believe in yourself basically. But the founders I talk to, they're all like I sometimes I'm just like in awe. I'm like this is like if anything it's more imposter syndrome is the
Yeah.
only thing I feel like is because I'm just constantly working with really smart founders, really smart teams who are just like fantastic at what they do and I'm like the fact I get to work with all these people, like that's the only like nerve-wracking thing is like, dude, what am I doing here? Like working with all these great people. So less on the investor side, more on like just the customer side. But that
Hmm.
being said, you speak, it's like Scott Adams says, where it's like, you are the best in the world at one thing for sure. Like you are like top 0.001% of people in the world at something. You just need to find out where those overlap and a specific thing around that process. It could be a unique insight, it could be
Hmm.
experience, whatever that is. That's really where you become the smartest in the room about that one thing. And so that's kind of like I guess been our focus is yeah, we're
Yeah.
talking to really smart people, but like we know this process better than anyone else at this point.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And it seems like you take that maybe imposter syndrome, maybe, like helpfulness from other people and use the energy to like, fuel like that you need to just work harder. At
Yeah,
least that's what I'm getting
exactly.
from it. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, amazing. Okay. So within each time that you have been raising, what is kind of like your biggest takeaway from each stage if you were to have one?
Of the fundraise.
Yeah, within fundraising, or like biggest takeaway from Y Combinator and then your rounds of fundraising.
Yeah, for sure. So, and we did YCS 24. So we raised
Mhm.
money there. We haven't raised since then. Other
Okay.
than like we've had a few customers that have wanted to invest, and I think that's
Hmm.
always a good idea. But I won't jump ahead. I'll kind of start with like kind of the overview. So,
Cool.
we wanted to raise. We're like, oh hey, we're worth this much money. No one cared, so we went out and proved it. Got into Y Combinator. You raise at a valuation that Y Combinator gives you. Then
Hmm.
after Y Combinator, you're just people are coming inbound, investors are coming inbound. You're not doing any outbound, maybe some warm introductions, but like almost all of it's inbound. And so I think if you're in YC, it's like you're just super fortunate. Just know what you're talking
Hmm.
about, be able to articulate it. You'll drive it home. People are looking for YC companies to invest in. So that one was
Yeah.
pretty straightforward. And since then, I most of the investors have they've mainly been customers or advisors who truly believe in the direction that we're going and either love the product or love the direction and want to create alignment. And I think if you can work on
Hmm.
incentives, work on nothing else, as Charlie Munger says. So I think that's been like the most of the people we've raised from then. And now it's just like, okay, we've got this product, we're growing pretty quickly. Like looking into future fundraisers, it's the bread and butter is still like just keep proving the product. Like people will show up, and the best type of round I think is the round where an existing investor in your cap table says, "Hey, it's time to do another round. I want to lead it, or I want to introduce you to people to take it to the next level." That's what you want to do rather than I need more money because I'm running out of money. It's like that's the wrong reason that you should have. It should be like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm putting $1 into this machine and getting $100 back. You should put as many dollars into that machine as you possibly can, and that's like the machine you're trying to build for investors because it's
Hmm.
so easy for them to see that reflected.
Okay. Yeah. Amazing. So once again, just do the work. I love it.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's all. It's hilarious. It's just
yeah,
like,
yeah,
what is I forget what that diagram is, but it's like, the bell curve, and it's got like the
yeah,
guy in the middle, and he's like stressing out over everything, and like on both ends it's just like, an idiot just saying just do the work. And
yeah.
that's literally just do the work. You'll know the product, you'll create growth, you'll know your customers. It's just do the work.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I mean, good theme, good theme. So when coming into the wrapping up of the interview, this has been super insightful. Thank you so much. Uh, when we're looking like 5 years, 2 years, 5 years down the road, just what is LedgerUp's future? Where do you see it going? Maybe right now, anything within AI, kind of just give me your thoughts on the future.
Yeah, I think we want to keep, like, customers are always giving us, so the beauty of what we're doing is in Web 2, the way to get feedback from customers is figuring out what screens are customers clicking on, what buttons are customers clicking on, where are they getting lost, what are they not using. Like, that's the way, like using amplitude or
Mm-hmm.
post hog to understand that data, and then using that data to drive insights. What's interesting now is our entire interface is practically Slack. So the customer's interacting with Ari how they want to interact with Ari, and that means a wide spread of different questions that they might have. So it's just like
Mm-hmm.
tallying together not just customer feedback on calls, but also um, how are they interacting with Ari, and how do we build out Ari to best serve them in these different needs that they have, and just stack ranking it. So product wise, that's what we're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we're sitting on now is like we're really getting good at understanding the different types of contracts, pricing strategy, understanding positioning for companies. Like, what are the best processes around that? And that's where we're kind of creating our data moat. I think reputation and data moats are going to be the biggest thing for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in the future, like, let's say an AI agent that comes out and it can do everything that every existing AI agent can do. Like, let's just say that's possible. People would still choose Ari to do the specific process because of his reputation, experience, and because he's focused in on this one thing. And so that's what I want to keep doing is like,
Mm-hmm.
it's one thing. We're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep improving on it. And I think honestly, I want to help people understand the health of their revenue better. So like that's the next area is like making sure we are catching people before they churn. And then yeah, I think just do the work. And like if we end up like, raising again and like trying to like do a massive scale up, and like we're hitting on something big and we can take this thing to the moon, like we're playing to win. So if
Mm-hmm.
that comes up, it comes up, and we'll take it from there. But there's so much work to be done in the meantime. It's like, you have like such big high hopes and everything, and then you have like a, 6-hour meeting on a Sunday about like, okay, like how are we gonna handle this specific issue? And it's like it's
Yeah.
fun. It's a blast. So yeah, that's kind of like how I'm looking ahead for the product, the team, and the kind of like the company's future in general. But it's a very exciting space to be in.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, use that high energy to put out all the fires and then still like build the runway as you're running down it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like at least right now, it's pretty easy not to spend a ton of money. In
Hmm.
reality,
Hmm.
you've got so much like cheap tools. It's like that
Yeah.
that like really leverage you as a person. So yeah, I think the raise it'll be more around just like marketing, go to market,
Right.
differentiation, like that kind of, just creating
Yeah.
distribution is really the biggest thing right now when it comes to go to market stuff, and less on like, all the other expensive hires or anything like
Hmm.
that you typically have to do. It's just a different world we're operating in.
Yeah, and just continue to own the niche and be the best in in the space.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, well, amazing. So we always ask this question at the end of all of our interviews. What is one small way that you'd be happy to give back to people within our startup or community?
Yeah, if you've got contracts, you're using Stripe, a CRM, QuickBooks Online, DocuSign, anything like that, and you have questions around how to do this. The reality is if you're self-serve, you probably won't have this issue, but the moment you step into enterprise sales motion, which is what most companies are doing, you're going to face this pain point, and I'm more than happy to sit down, show you best processes. Like I said early on this podcast, it's all about education, and we're going to keep
Hmm.
pumping content out there, but shoot me a DM or an email. I'd be happy to take a look and like help out any way I can. And sometimes I just give people the process. Like we're open sourcing our entire process. So following that until you reach a certain scale, which makes sense to bring us on or hire someone for it, like happy to share all that information with anyone dealing with this issue.
That's so cool. All right. Well, you're such a nice guy. I appreciate it. That's amazing. I'm sure that'll be so helpful for so many people.
Awesome. I'm
And
hoping
once
so. I
again,
hope I hope I get to
yeah.
talk to some of them.
Yeah, and once again, just like the openness and like the genuine that I can feel through it. So I appreciate it so much. Thank you for joining us today. I'm sure that a lot of people will find this extremely helpful. And genuinely best of luck for all the future.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it, Parker.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, see ya.